Okay, we're still on triglycerides. Yay, fats! Essentially, we have them connecting. We're going to have three, and we're going to talk about what else they do. So fats perform essential functions in your body. They include energy storage. You need a little bit of fat for your energy storage. They include cushioning, so your squishy parts, there's no bone right there. It's not good. And they include insulation. Keeps you warm. So fats are really important. You have to have a little bit of fat in your diet. If the carbon skeleton of a fatty acid has fewer than the maximum number of hydrogens, it's called unsaturated. So think of it like this. It is saturated with hydrogens. Every possible place there can be a hydrogen, it has one. Right? If there could be a hydrogen there, it has one. It doesn't have any double bonds with hydrogens on it, and it is typically a straight line, just like this. All the possible places where it could have hydrogens, it is saturated with hydrogens. Unsaturated has hydrogens here and then double bond, where there could be hydrogens here, but instead it has a double bond. And essentially you have something called trans, where your hydrogens are down here, or cis, where your hydrogens are up here. So cis, your hydrogens, this is a double bond. Your hydrogens are up here, or your hydrogens are here, right around your double bond. So if it has a double bond, it is unsaturated because it doesn't have the maximum saturated hydrogens. These are your hydrogens. There's a maximum number of hydrogens that can be here. Here's unsaturated. Because there's a double bond, it doesn't have the maximum saturated amount of hydrogens. So if it has the maximum number of hydrogens, it is saturated. A saturated fat has all three of its fatty acids are saturated. Most animal fat, have a relatively high proportion of saturated fatty acids. It can easily stack, tending to be solid at room temperature. Butter, solid at room temperature. Oil, not solid. So butter is saturated, oil is unsaturated. It does tend up to build that you can't have a diet of just butter and bacon. You do need fat, you just don't need that much. Okay, your saturated fats tend to be solid, do tend to be dairy products and meats. Unsaturated fat tends to be your oils, trans fat, margarine, fish oil, shrimp oil, omega-3 fats. Some of these are better for you than others. Most plant and fish fats tend to be high in unsaturated fatty acid that are liquid at room temperature. So plant and fish fats tend to be liquid at room temperature. So we can, of course, do this on our own. You can hydrogenate or use the process of hydrogenation to add hydrogen to those double bonds. You can break the double bonds and add hydrogen. This converts an unsaturated, doesn't have the right number of hydrogens, to a saturated with hydrogens, the maximum number of hydrogens. So it adds a hydrogen, converts unsaturated to saturated, makes liquid fats solid at room temperature, and creates a trans fat, a type of unsaturated fat that is particularly bad for you. Margarine, not good, right? But that is a hydrogenation process that makes it hard like that. Steroids, also not awesome for you, but necessary in certain parts of your body naturally. Steroids are very different from fats in structure and function. The carbon skeleton has 4 fused rings. I'll show you the structure in a bit. Steroids vary in functional groups attached to the set of rings, and the chemical variations affect their function. A key component of cellular membranes is the base steroid, from which your body produces other steroids such as estrogen and testosterone. So steroids in themselves are not bad. You need estrogen, you need testosterone, you actually need these things, but you don't need them in massive doses shot straight into your muscle cells. That's the difference. So you do have steroids in your body. You sometimes are given the steroids to heal a muscle, to help the tear. That's a different situation. You're not going to become steroid ragey. You're just helping to fix a torn muscle. This is what the steroid molecule looks like. It can be, here's what testosterone looks like. Here's what estrogen looks like. I don't know why we're using like Semba and I don't know. I don't know why we're using this particular, but whatever. Here's testosterone, here's estrogen. Synthetic anabolic steroids are a variation of testosterone. They mimic the effects, and it can be prescribed to treat diseases such as cancer and HIV, and it's the same one that is abused by athletes to build up their muscles and can cause serious physical and mental problems. 2 out of 10 do not recommend the steroid use. Most athletic organizations ban the use of anabolic steroids because of their many potential health hazards coupled with the unfairness of an artificial advantage. So that's what we talked about in class, and we have come up with some possible opinions for steroid use. Here's some of our past friends who may have been using some steroids to further their professional career. Proteins. So proteins are polymers of amino acids. Just a reminder, you can memorize all 20 amino acids for 20 points on the test. Polymers of amino acids. So amino acids are the monomers, just like the monosaccharides and the monomers. So amino acids are the building blocks or the monomers of proteins. They account for more than 50% of the dry weight of most of your cells and are instrumental in almost everything we do. Some types of proteins, so structural proteins in your hair, storage proteins provide amino acids for growth. Of course, your contractile proteins. Transport proteins help substance transport. These are in your cells, and chemical reactions also have some proteins in them. So here are the 20 amino acids. Feel free to memorize them. I will give you 1 point for every amino acid you memorize on the test. Free 20 points. Here's your 20. You can certainly remember these, right? You start with glycine, alanine, and it just goes up in carbons. But basically you string these together and that makes proteins. And proteins are really, you are made up of protein. So every amino acid consists of a central atom. So here is your central carbon atom. See it? Central carbon atom. You can see it in all of these. Bonded to 4 covalent partners. So you'll have 4 things around whatever carbon that you have. And that is an amino acid. 3 of those attached groups are common to all amino acids. They have a carboxyl group, an amino group, and a hydrogen atom. Let's look. An amino group, amine because it has a nitrogen on it, a carboxyl group because it has a carbon with a double bond to oxygen, and this OH here, which is an alcohol. So it has an amino group and a carboxyl group. This is the main central carbon, and then it's going to have a side chain. So they're all going to look like this, and then you're going to have these side chains, right? So every one of them is going to have a carboxyl group, an amino group, and a hydrogen atom. And then they're going to have a side chain is attached to this 4th bond. Everybody's going to look like this. This is the difference. Let's look again. Everybody's going to look like this. So we have our carbon. We have our hydrogen right there. We have our amino group right there. We have our carboxyl group right there. You see, every one of them looks the same. They have this, and then they'll have this side chain. On this chart, it's in yellow or green. That is how you look at the structure of amino acids. Here is another one. Your carboxyl group, your amino group, your carboxyl group, this hydrogen, and they're going to have these side chains, leucine, serine. So, anyone would guess how we put these together? Come on, guess. It's a dehydration reaction. Woohoo, dehydration. You're losing water. Look at that. It's almost like we put all the monomers together with the dehydration reaction. Spoiler alert, we do. It's always a dehydration reaction. So, cells link amino acids together by dehydration reaction. And these make polypeptides. So cells link amino acid together by a dehydration reaction, and they form peptide bonds. So the bonds in between the polypeptides, not the monopeptides, but the polypeptides, are going to be called peptide bonds. And these create long chains of amino acids.